One of my all-time favorite coffee table books is Muscle, America's Legendary Performance Cars. This is a book that talks about the incredible explosion of American muscle cars in the 1960s. Basically a horsepower war that resulted as a clash of culture and engineering and insanity. And it culminated in the late 60s with what is described in the books as Wretched excess. The Boss 9s, the Hemi Cudas, the 454 Chevelles, crazy cars that bear a surprising likeness to flashlights. Yes, flashlights. What are we talking about here? Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the horsepower war that's currently going on in the flashlight world. Just looking at the business end of these flashlights, you can tell that they're serious business. On the left, you have the Nitecore EAX Hammer, and on the right, you have the ThruNite TN36 UT. These flashlights are representative of what I want to call high horsepower flashlights. The Nightcore EAX Hammer retails for about $120. This is a fairly large flashlight. It's 7.7 inches, about 2 inches wide at the handle, and at its widest point in its hammer head, it's about 2.8 inches. So it feels heavy in the hand, and it's definitely something you need to wear in a sheath on a belt if you want to carry it in any way. But what it brings is an incredible throwing power. It can throw 535 yards according to Nitecore. Now, how does it do this? Well, it does this with a set of Cree XM-L2 LEDs and 8 AA batteries. These 8 AA batteries empower the light to do a turbo mode of 2,000 lumens. 2,000 lumens. And it has a high of 1200, a medium of 400, a low of 150, and a micro of 1 lumen. Now it accomplishes this incredible throw by beautiful, deep reflectors, smooth reflectors, and an AR-coated mineral crystal covering those reflectors. It's a fantastically well-built light and exhibits a real impressive level of machining and engineering prowess. The push button is very impressive. It happens to also be a locator in the dark, and it can actually provide a wattage reading if you're noticing how frequently it's flashing. It's a very nice touch on this 2-stage button. I was hugely impressed with this light, and I think that it's an excellent high-power throwing light. But honestly, it pales in comparison to this can of soda, the ThruNite TN36. At least it pales in comparison to the Lumen output that you're getting in this very interesting high-powered ThruNite. Now the ThruNite comes in at about $200. It is 4.95 inches and it's about 2.5 inches wide, and it weighs slightly more at 3.8 ounces. And what it's using in this flashlight is an 18650 battery, and it's using 4 of those. The TN36 is powered by 3 huge XHP70 LEDs, and this allows the light to put out an astonishing 7,300 lumens at turbo mode. It has a number of other modes, but that mode alone is just so unbelievable. As you can see, it is just a pure floodlight based on the extremely flat reflector, and this light is just the wall of light style. It is very impressive and very different than the Nightcore, and so comparing these two is really showing a comparison between two ways to use a high-power flashlight. So let's take a little trip to my cabin up north in Minnesota, beautiful Cross Lake, Trout Lake in particular on the Cross Lake chain, and what we'll see is how these lights compare in different practical and real-world settings. Standing on my front porch, starting with the Nightcore, you can see that it has an extreme beam density at the center. There's a real searchlight quality to it, and it's really able to light up a concentrated area very, very specifically and very, very nicely. And it's going to be able to do that in spite of kind of the complexity of the terrain. And we'll be talking a little bit about the interesting pattern of this throwy light, thanks to the reflector style that has this kind of like a fisheye or an eyeball effect because of the ways that the two different reflectors overlap. Now, on the other hand, the TN36 is, like I said, just that wall of light. Now, really, when you're talking about 7,300 lumens on turbo mode, which is what you're seeing here, it is just overall a much brighter effect when compared to the Hammer. Overall, what's interesting is that the Hammer is actually more powerful in its very specific beam pattern. That is to say, in the hotspot of the EAX Hammer, it really is equally bright or even brighter. So here we are with the Hammer out on the lake, just shining it around at a variety of distances and at a variety of objects. And you can see it has this incredible hotspot. Very bright, very distinct. It was kind of smoky. We had just put out a fire, and so you can see the directionality of this light is very impressive. Now, as you can see, it is going to allow you to search for very specific things in a very narrow way, or send things out at quite a distance. It's going to kind of be useful in that respect. Now, in comparison, the ThruNite TN36 isn't going to necessarily be as perfect as searching on specific objects. In fact, the throw on this light is only 285 meters. So on the lake, it's not going to actually be as impressive at finding little specific things. Now, from the perspective of maybe a boat on the lake, the TN36 might actually appear brighter, but it just is lacking that directionality that might be particularly useful for searching in the case of the Hammer. Now, there are definitely maritime needs that a simple and impressive wall of light will be very important. And there will be other occasions on a river or in a rural property where you're going to want the throw. And here's another example of throw utilized by the Nightcore Hammer pointing up at the cabin. Now, as you can see, it's really going to light things up very, very specifically. And you're going to get a little bit of the sense of the overall pattern thanks to this interesting double smooth reflector. Now, in comparison here, the TN36 just lights things up much more evenly. Now, in real life perspective, this is much more impressive, even though it isn't necessarily a whole lot more useful. And this is kind of getting to a theme that I want to return to. This idea of wretched excess, of illogical extremes. I don't think it's unreasonable to declare that we're in a horsepower war, not unlike the muscle cars of the 1960s. And there's kind of two different ways that you can react to this. You can say that it doesn't make sense, that it's stupid, and that you could spend your money better on other flashlights. Or you could go to the wild side a little bit and just say, hey, this is crazy, this is great, let's ride the wave as long as we can. 1970 is better than 1975. But like all things a little crazy, there is a limit to the differences that we can actually tell. And so in my opinion, these lights, even though the actual lumens on paper seem to be vastly different, they're very similar performance in real life. You see, we have physiological and psychological things that keep us from perceiving brightness precisely according to the numerical differences in differences of lumens. It's a logarithmic relationship that I've discussed in previous videos. Stimulus intensity and sensational magnitude have an interesting logarithmic relationship. Let's be honest though, these are like muscle cars that we're going to enjoy them not for the technical specifications, but for the craziness and fun that they bring. The Nitecore is like a small block V8 that's tuned to an extreme, a Boss 302 or a Z28. Very cool, very powerful in its own way. The TN36 is a brawler of a light, just showing what you can do with pure cubic inches of lumens. It's an exciting and fun light, and we should enjoy these crazy high horsepower times in flashlights. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks a lot for your time.